Welcome to the deep dive, and thanks for bringing us this really interesting set of source material.
Absolutely.
Today, we are taking a deep dive into the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, LARC, and their big strategic plan for workforce development. We're really zeroing in on the 2024-2027 plan, but especially that 2025 update.
That's right. And our mission here really is to give you a kind of guided tour through what can be a pretty dense plan. We'll pull out the key insights, the priorities, what impacts they're projecting, basically your shortcut to understanding this whole effort.
Exactly. A shortcut is good here. So just to set the stage, what we're looking at is essentially a framework. It brings together 19 community colleges across LA County.
19, yeah.
All working together, collaborating, trying to align what they teach with what the workforce actually needs right now in LA.
Precisely. LARC is that collaborative engine. Its big picture purpose, enhancing the region's economy by, strengthening the workforce.
And the core mission, based on what you shared, it seems to boil down to making education accessible, affordable, and really improving career and technical education CTE. You'll hear that a lot. And doing that by building partnerships with K-12, with employers, key industries.
Yeah, all those connections are vital. It's about creating those clear pathways for students into hopefully good jobs.
And that kind of coordination needs some structure, right? The source mentions Pasadena Area Community College District is the fiscal agent.
That's right. They handle the money, basically, and act as the host, the central administrative hub for LARC. It keeps things organized when you have 19 institutions involved. The leadership there is really focused on bridging education and industry.
Making sure it's relevant.
Exactly. And helping students find their way.
What also jumped out at me was the emphasis on values. It's not just job skills. The plan highlights LARC's core values: diversity, equity, inclusion are right up front.
Central, yeah.
Along with industry engagement, student success, collaboration, and it connects to bigger state goals, like the Chancellor's Office Vision 2030.
Right. So it fits into that larger California community college picture.
So, okay, that's the foundation, LARC, what it is, what drives it, but let's talk about the sheer impact these colleges already have, even before we get into the future plans.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty staggering when you look at them.
They really are. The source gives a figure, a direct economic contribution of $23.2 billion in income to LA County. That was just for the fiscal year 2021-2022.
$23.2 billion. And to put that in context, the source says that's about 2.6% of the county's total gross regional product, the GRP.
Wow.
So not insignificant. It's a real slice of the LA economy just from the activity of these colleges, their students, their alumni.
2.6%. Yeah, that's substantial. And it goes beyond just the direct income, doesn't it? The source mentioned broader social benefits.
It does, yeah. The projection there is even bigger, $49.5 billion in total social benefits.
Okay, social benefits. What does that actually mean in practice? Like, what does that include?
Well, this is where you see the wider value. It includes things like more tax revenue, obviously, because graduates earn more.
Yeah.
But it also factors in reduced costs for public services, things like lower healthcare spending, savings in the justice system, less reliance on income assistance programs.
Ah.
So it makes the point that these colleges aren't just, job training centers. They contribute to the overall health and well-being of the community in a really measurable way. It's significant economic value.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so we have this foundation, this current impact. Let's connect it to the future, because this is where it gets really interesting. The plan isn't static. That 2025 update to the 2024-2027 plan, it brings in some really crucial emerging priorities. It shows how fast they're trying to adapt.
Exactly. The world changes, the plan needs to change. And a huge one in the update is AI and automation. No surprise there.
Right, I can't ignore it.
LARC is clearly focused on how AI is transforming work. They're developing curricula, trying to build digital fluency, AI literacy, across different programs. The source even mentions things like an AI and LA Innovation Summit. They know these skills are becoming baseline.
Makes total sense. What else did that 2025 update bring in?
Another really critical one highlighted is fire recovery and community resilience. The source explains this came about because of major wildfires in 2025 that sadly caused significant job losses in certain areas. So the update includes plans for reskilling programs, specifically for workers impacted by those fires, helping them pivot.
Wow, responding directly to a regional crisis. That's powerful. And it also looks like the update aligns with bigger state initiatives.
It does, yeah. There's a priority they call California Jobs First Alignment. which basically means LARC is making sure its strategies support the state's overall economic growth plans. The source points to sectors like aerospace, healthcare, clean energy as key areas for this alignment.
And then there's the LA-specific big event coming up.
The Olympics. Absolutely. The LA 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The plan specifically talks about developing career pathways to get people ready for jobs related to the games.
Like what kind of jobs?
Hospitality, obviously, but also things like cybersecurity, transportation, areas where they anticipate a big surge in demand.
Got it. And one more update mentioned was a new kind of collaboration.
Yes, the K-16 Collaborative. This sounds like a pretty big deal. It aims to unite K-12 districts, higher ed, like the UCs and CSUs, and community partners. And the source emphasizes equitable degree attainment as a key goal here.
So smoothing the path from kindergarten right through to college or career.
That seems to be the idea, building that whole pipeline.
Okay, that is a really comprehensive set of updates, reflecting tech shifts, local disasters, state policy, global events. Wow. Shows they're thinking really broadly.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all that going on, where specifically is LARC focusing its workforce development energy? The source lists out priority sectors.
Yeah, they've identified 8 key sectors based on their labor market analysis. These are the areas where the LARC colleges are really concentrating their program development and investments.
Okay, what are they?
Let's see. Advanced manufacturing, transportation and logistics, business, entrepreneurship and global trade, energy, construction and utilities. Healthcare, that's a big one. ICT, digital media, life sciences, biotechnology, and retail, hospitality, and tourism.
That's a huge range, from making things to healthcare to tech to tourism. Why these 8?
The rationale, according to the source, is pretty straightforward. Potential for high-wage job growth. Each of these sectors shows strong promise for good-paying jobs in the coming years. And crucially, that potential seems to hold up even with AI and automation changing things. So LARC is putting its resources where the data points to the best future opportunities for students.
Okay, makes sense. Focus on the growth area. So they have the mission, the updates, and the where, the priority sectors. Let's talk how. How does this all actually get managed across 19 colleges? The source mentions governance, strategy.
Right, you need a system. The source outlines a structure for coordination. There's something called the Regional Project Development and Innovation Collaborative, sounds like, where stakeholders plan things out.
Yeah.
Then there's a workforce council. This is key. It's the academic leaders for CTE. They approve new programs. They watch the performance metrics.
So the people actually running the programs.
Exactly. And then overseeing it all is the CEO board. That's the college presidents. They provide the top-level leadership, advocate for LARC, and make the big decisions on funding allocation, like grants.
Sounds pretty structured. And data plays a big part in the strategy.
Absolutely. It's very data-driven. They have an employer engagement plan to keep lines open with industry, understand what skills are needed now, and they rely heavily on research from the Los Angeles Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research.
Ah, the COE.
Yeah, that data is what helps them identify those growth sectors, understand skill gaps, and basically keep refining the programs so they actually match employer demand.
And you mentioned funding. This obviously takes investment.
For sure. The source highlights strategic investments are crucial. Key funding streams include the state's Strong Workforce Program, SWP, which is specifically for CTE. Plus, there are specific grants for K-12 SWP partnerships, building those earlier pathways, and dedicated funding for apprenticeship programs. Learn while you earn. These are the financial engines making the plan happen.
Got it. Okay, shifting gears just a bit. The source also spends some important time on equity and student success. How does LARC actually measure if they're achieving those equity goals?
Well, the plan uses specific metrics. They look at student access, who's getting into these programs, and also student success completion rates, outcomes within the programs.
And what's the current picture, according to the source?
It shows some positive signs.
Yeah.
Overall enrollment is up across the colleges, which is good news. And it specifically mentions significant participation and success rates for Hispanic students. That's highlighted as a positive outcome.
That's definitely encouraging. But the source doesn't just paint a rosy picture, right? It acknowledges challenges.
Not at all. And this is crucial. The source is clear that despite progress overall and those good signs for some groups, there are still significant equity gaps.
Gaps for whom?
The plan specifically points out gaps for Black or African American students and also for Pacific Islander students.
So what does that mean in the context of this whole plan?
It means that even as more students are enrolling and succeeding overall, certain groups are still facing barriers. They're not accessing these programs or achieving success at the same rates. And the plan acknowledges this. It flags these gaps as a critical area needing very specific, targeted strategies.
Right. It's not enough just to lift the average.
Exactly. Success needs to be equitable across the board. It's a stated priority to address those specific gaps.
Okay. Let's try and pull all these threads together then. We've covered a lot. So what does this deep dive into the LARC strategic plan, especially with that 2025 update, really mean for you, the listener, whether you're navigating the job market or thinking about education in LA County?
I think it means that what's happening across these 19 community colleges is it's more than just business as usual. This strategic vision laid out in the source, it's a really comprehensive and, importantly, a living effort. They're actively trying to make sure education lines up with what the labor market needs, especially in this incredibly fast-changing economy.
Right. The goal feels very tangible. It's about equipping students really across the whole county with the skills they need, not just to get a job, but hopefully to build a sustainable career.
Yeah, and by doing that, the aim is bigger too. Strengthening the regional economy, making LA more resilient to, shocks like wildfires or economic downturns, and just contributing to the overall socioeconomic health of the county.
Making it a better place to live and work.
And underpinning all of that is the commitment to equity we just talked about. That ongoing work to make sure access and opportunity actually translate into successful outcomes for everyone, no matter their background.
This deep dive, it's definitely highlighted the scale, the ambition of what LARC is trying to do. We've touched on the structure, the collaboration, the huge economic footprint, those really critical 2025 updates dealing with AI, fire recovery, the Olympics.
State alignment, K-16.
Right. The specific sectors they're targeting, how it's all governed and funded, and that crucial focus on equity, acknowledging both the progress and those persistent gaps.
It's a complex picture, for sure, but a really vital framework for LA's workforce future.
Which leads us nicely to a final provocative thought for you to chew on, something directly sparked by this source material. Considering this wide range of priority sectors, LARC is focusing on many with high wage potential, and the fact that AI and automation are rapidly changing those very sectors. How might those specific equity gaps the plan identifies for Black or African American and Pacific Islander students be uniquely impacted? What are the implications, for making sure those specific communities actually benefit equitably from the high wage job growth projected in these future-focused industries?
That's definitely something important to keep watching as LARC moves forward with implementing this plan.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for sharing this source material and letting us really dive into it with you. We appreciate it.